The next day was hotter than usual. It was April 20th, 630 A.D. As the sun rose, men gathered to talk about their plight.
Tabari, Amr said, "We have been dealt a situation from which there is no escape. You have seen what Muhammad has done. Arabs have submitted to him, and we do not have the strength to fight. You know that no herd is safe from him, and no one even dares to go outside for fear of being terrorized."
Islam had arrived, and it had conquered. Anarchy was the result. It still is. So Mohammed and his less-than-inspired band of thugs set out in search of unplundered territory.
Tabari, in this year the messenger carried out a military expedition to Tabuk.
Tabuk was a Christian settlement in Byzantine Syria. They had done nothing to earn Mohammed's wrath. They were simply a target, the nearest untapped source of booty.
Ishaq, the apostle ordered Muslims to prepare for a military expedition so that he could raid the Byzantines.
It would be the largest and best-equipped army Allah's messenger would ever lead. 30,000 militants heeded the call to arms. Mohammed proclaimed,
"The treasures of Caesar have been given to me by conquest."
The historian Tabari, in Volume 9, page 48, reveals,
Muhammad wanted the people to be prepared, so he informed them that his objective was the Byzantines. The Muslims disliked the idea because of their respect for their fighting ability.
But Mohammed had invested much of his last and final surah demeaning Christians and ordering Muslims to fight them, humiliate them, mutilate them, tax them, enslave them, and even crucify them. He couldn't let all of that wonderful godly inspiration go to waste. The pirates, however, weren't so inspired. They wanted easy booty, not war.
Tabari, one of the hypocrites,
a peaceful former Muslim,
feeling an aversion to battle, being skeptical of the truth, and spreading false rumors about Muhammad, said that they should not go out in the heat. With regard to him, Allah revealed, they said, "Do not march out in the heat. Say, the heat of hell is far more intense."
The message was nasty. Obey my order to fight and plunder, or my God will roast you in hell.
Tabari, Muhammad urged the Muslims, by way of a meeting, to help cover the expenses of Allah's cause. The men provided mounts in anticipation of Allah's reward.
Once again, we see that neither preaching, evangelism, nor salvation entered the picture. These men weren't off on a religious crusade.
Allah's cause
was armed robbery. And frankly, such behavior would be inexcusable, even if it only happened once in the presence of the Prophet or during the formation of Islam. But Muhammad's militants were in a rut. They had fought for no other reason. If we were to remove immoral, illegal, hateful, and violent verses from the Hadith and Koran, all we'd have left would be an odd collection of plagiarized and twisted Bible stories. Bad simply overwhelms good in Islam. To believe Mohammed is as foolish as protecting the doctrine he inspired.
Ishaq, the apostle always referred allusively to the destination which he intended to raid, for he said plainly that he was making for the Byzantines because the journey was long, the weather was hot, and the enemy was strong.
No Byzantine had threatened Mohammed. Calling them
the enemy
simply confirms that all non-Muslims are Islam's foe. But there is another lesson here. Today, Muslims scream with shrill voices that the Christian crusaders attacked Muslims without provocation. Yet their own scriptures confirm that Islam drew first blood, and that Muslims invaded and conquered Christians. But it's worse than that. Christianity had permeated what is now Iraq, Iran, Turkey, Syria, Jordan, Israel, and Egypt by the time Mohammed decided to plunder these people. The Messiah's message appealed to human hearts and minds by virtue of his words. Within a decade of the Tabuk raid, Islam would lay all of that to ruin, attacking, conquering, and taxing the once free people who occupied these places. Islam imposed its will by violent assault. On this day, Mohammed discovered that even after promising Allah would reward Muslims with booty beyond their dreams, most Arabs were skeptical.
Tabari. When the Prophet was prepared to set off, a number of Muslims whose intentions had prevented them from following the messenger lagged behind without any misgivings.
Those who knew Mohammed much better than we do recognized the obvious. There was no doubt in their mind that Islam's founder was a money-grubbing Khan, a mean-spirited thug who was out for himself. Here's an example, up close and personal.
Ishaq. Jad told Muhammad, "Will you allow me to stay behind and not tempt me? Everyone knows that I am strongly addicted to women. I'm afraid that I'll see Byzantine women and will not be able to control myself."
This suggests that Mohammed tempted Muslims to fight and that he offered them captured women as booty.
The apostle gave him permission to remain behind.
In other words, Mohammed didn't want the competition.
It was about him that Allah sent down, "There are some who say, 'Give me leave to stay behind and do not tempt me.' Surely they have fallen into temptation already, and hell encompasses these unbelievers."
This became Quran 9:49.
It was not that he feared the temptation from the Byzantine women. The temptation he had fallen into was greater in that he had hung back from the apostle and sought to please himself rather than Muhammad. Verily, hell awaits him.
There are 3 messages here, and all are bad. Being tempted to rape is a lesser offense than being a pacifist. The highest calling in Islam is to please Muhammad, and if you don't fight, you go to hell. If you are a peaceful Muslim, your God hates you, and he wants to punish you.
Ishaq. One of the estranged ones said to another, "Don't go out to fight in this heat." He disliked strenuous war, doubted the truth, and created misgivings about the apostle. So Allah sent down regarding them, and they said, "Do not go out in this heat. Say, the fires of hell are hotter. Let them laugh a little for now, and they will weep a great deal later, as reward for what they did."
You will find this gem buried in the 82nd verse of
the feast.
Surah. A related hadith says,
Ishaq. Some Bedouins came to apologize for not going into battle, but Allah would not accept their excuses. Ishaq. The apostle went forward energetically with his preparations and ordered the men to get ready with all speed. He urged Muslims to help provide the money, mounts, and means to do Allah's work. Those who contributed earned rewards with Allah.
This is why Islamic despots like the Saudi warlords fund terrorism. But those who have tried to cash in their reward aren't happy with the deal they've struck. Like all pirates, Mohammed had to constantly watch his backside.
Tabari. Ali seized his weapons and set off until he caught up with Muhammad. "The hypocrites allege that you left me behind because you found me burdensome and wanted to get rid of me," he replied. "They lied. I left you behind because of what I have left behind. So go back and represent me in my family."
The kind of men who were willing to rob were just as likely to pick his pockets. So the pirate king told his son and son-in-law, "Don't let them steal my booty or my babes." The first Muslims didn't care much for the Prophet's company.
Tabari. The messenger continued his march, but his men began to fall behind. The Prophet said, "Leave them, for if there is any good in any of them, Allah will unite them
with the rest of his pirates.
If not, Allah has relieved you of them."
So the quasi-peaceful Muslims died of exposure, hunger, and thirst.
Tabari. A band of hypocrites going along with the Prophet as he was marching towards Tabuk said, "Do you think that fighting these people will be like the others we have fought? It looks to me as if we will be tied with ropes tomorrow." They said this in order to intimidate and frighten the faithful. But then they said, "Every one of us would rather be flogged 100 lashes to escape Allah revealing a verse about us and what we have said."
One of the Muslim snitches ratted out these men to his general. So the chief pirate turned in his saddle and confronted the bad Muslims. They protested,
"O Prophet, we were simply playing and speaking nonsense. Then Allah sent down a Koran about them. If you question them, then assuredly they will say, we were only speaking nonsense and playing."
Quran 9:65.
Ishaq, Abd Ar-Rahman, the man for whom the Koran had been sent down, said, "O Apostle, my name disgraces me."
The rock idol Ar-Rahman was no longer in vogue. And that's one more proof that Ar-Rahman was not merely a title or an attribute for Allah.